What's up everybody, Matty Amendola here for SonicScoop.com, and tonight we're going to track a song with all things Universal Audio. Specifically, the Apollo Solo desktop interface, the Luna recording system, and then when we get to guitars, the UA effects pedals. So we're actually in the lounge of my studio here tonight. I wanted to track this song in an environment that's realistic to how I use a Universal Audio desktop interface. I have one at home, I use one when I travel, and it's also the interface that I recommend to people if they're looking to get into the Universal Audio ecosystem. So in the Apollo Solo, we have two Unison-enabled mic pre's, we have two live mics in the room, we have a high Z input for guitar and bass, and we are inside of Luna, which I've had a blast using for the past few months. I haven't quite made the move over to it full time, but I do think that it's going to be a contender in the future. So let's jump right into this. I wrote the song around this loop, which I pulled in. We added some session markers. We also have a few bars of 2/4. I'm thinking though that we need to emphasize the kick drum pattern a little bit, and then we can probably give a little bit more love to the backbeat, to the snare and claps. All right, so we're gonna create a new track here, and I'm gonna open up an instrument track. We'll actually create two. We're gonna use Shape, which is Luna's built-in sampler. I'm a huge fan of not only the samples they curated for the library, but I also like the interface a lot. On the main page, you'll see 4 slots for sounds, and I love that. I think that that's encouraging people to make their sounds a little bit more unique by stacking, combinations, and that encourages originality. The other thing I've become super accustomed to is just being able to use my keyboard as my MIDI controller. So I can just browse through sounds that easily. We already have a kick drum on the loop, so I'm just looking for something that's kind of sharp just to emphasize the pattern a little bit more. That'll probably work. And then let's go to part 2 and kind of add another one in there. Cool, so here's sample number 1. Sample number 2. Together. Here we go. Cool, so we got a kick pattern in. Let's go to our quantization here and just get this thing tightened up. Let's see how this feels. Quickly copy and paste it throughout the song and move on to strengthening the snare and clap a little bit. So when doubling snares, I'm a big fan of using literally anything else, like noise. There's a bank in here called Found Sounds Kit. So I kind of want to start there. I like that. It's industrial and it's got some space on it. I think that that'll add some impact, so let's do it. Yeah, so I think that just strengthened the loop up a little bit. Here's without it. And then our reinforcement stuff. All right, moving along here, I would love to get some bass down. Let's create a new track here. Let's color code the bass to something like that. And because this is the first live instrument we're going to be tracking, there's a few ways we can go about this. So we're going to be going into the high Z input, which is going to be line 1. Once we record enable this, we also have unison slots. And then we also have something called record effects, which is different than your standard inserts. I want to get a nice crunchy bass sound, but maybe in this environment, I don't want to commit to that. So because of that, unison might not be the way to go, because unison prints it. And record effects, again, I'm not sure if I want to commit to it. So I'm thinking that we're going to just go straight insert. Effectively, that means that if I shut that insert off later on, we just have a bass DI, which I'm more than happy with. So real quick, the first thing I'm definitely going to need is a tuner. We'll pull that up. And I love finding plugins like this inside of Luna. Just clicking on the insert, and we're going to be looking for bass room, soft tube bass amp room. And this is an oldie but a goodie. I really, really like this small speaker right here for crunching down basses, and the fact that it's being recorded with a 421 and we can move it around and just get gnarly with the mid-range. I love that. Okay, cool. Bass is tuned up, sounds good. So here's the amp I'm going with, and I want to crunch this thing up, so I think we're going to need to push into it. That's starting to become something. And then when I'm tracking bass, I like a few dB of gain reduction with an LA2A Classic. Also something that you'd get with an Apollo Solo interface. Let's go for it. We have a lead break later on, and I want to put some live drums in there. So I'm thinking if we pull out the demo loop here, and it just goes to the reinforcement stuff. Cool, that feels like now there's room for me to kind of bash away. So I'm going to do some live drums. Let's create a new instrument track. We're going to use shape once again. Let's go right to our drums folder, and they have a live kit in here, Ocean Way Drums, Kit 1. And then recently, Universal Audio, they've been doing all these office hours, which is amazing, and they talked about using shape with an electronic drum kit. So I mapped my little setup here to the kit to play accordingly, and it's pretty awesome that the second I put this into record enable, I'm basically playing MIDI drums with virtually no latency, which feels actually really good. Cool, so that sounds like a really lovely drum kit. It's a little clean for my taste. Let's see if we can maybe add something else in there that can dirty it up a bit. Let's see what this jazz kit does. So this jazz kit I just added in there is cool, but that's starting to feel like a drum kit. Cool, so that feels great. It's 2 drum kits at once. I'm playing with the blend. Here's the first kit. Here's the second kit. So it's almost like I'm using the second kit as a room mic for the first kit. Obviously, one of the beauties of being in the UA ecosystem is being able to track through plugins in real time. I kind of want to crush these drums for more excitement. Yeah, let's go fast attack, fast release. Yeah, it's starting to feel like drums. It's getting me excited. And because we're in Luna, how could we not throw some tape on these drums right here? So I'm a huge fan of the Oxide tape machine on drums. Been using it forever inside of console when I track drums. I love the bump that this tape machine gives. Let's see where it is as a starting point. Without. Yeah, just a little bit of grit in there. Again, I really like the bump in the low end. We could put a low cut on there. Yeah, this one always wins. It's vintage. All right, so I'm gonna assume you didn't expect to be hearing Vibraslap today. But you are, and we're gonna do something cool with it too. So we've got our tambourines and Vibraslap in, moved around. This Vibraslap part works around the vocal, and there's one more piece to the puzzle I'm hearing in my head. To make that happen, let's get a space echo. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, on the space echo, we ended up here with a quarter note kind of call and response thing. I'm also trying to change the texture with the EQ, so we have a cha, just 2 different tones kind of call and response. Okay, so here I imported the synth that was in the original demo, and I want to try to recreate it using some samples from Shape, but I figured why not just throw it on in. Let's create a new instrument track here. We're back in Shape. Okay, that's the kind of vibe for part 1. Let's go see if we can find something in part 2, something maybe a little dirtier. All right, that's gnarly and I like it. Let's blend it though. Okay, let's do it. grab one of my favorite UAD plugins of all time, Bermuda Triangle, and let's kind of just tone shape this a little bit. What I'm really looking to do is EQ the fuzz with a fuzz. Yeah. I'm thinking of just some single notes low on the piano, very sophisticated. All right, so for recording this lead vocal, I'm singing into a Shure SM7. We are going through this 610B, which not only comes with the Apollo Solo, but I have a UA version of this in real life in hardware. Been using it forever. You can get a ton of gain, so it's great for the SM7. I'm also doing a little bit of EQ here, giving myself a little 70. Little body in there, and then just a little bit of presence at 7K. We're cranking the level, but we're also cranking the pre itself so we can hit the tube hard. I really like how that warms up my voice and kind of rounds it out a bit. That's on our unison slot, which means this is no different than us tracking through the real thing. It's going to record with it in. It's doing a lot of science behind the scenes to change the architecture of the preamp in the interface itself. And then in our record effects, I'm also choosing to print this LA2A. I'm only, again, looking for just a few dB.
Turn me up!
Yeah, so if we're 3, 4, 5 dB, I'm kind of cool with that. And then I think it's going to help me to hear a little bit of the effect that I want to hear.
Check, 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 check.
Yeah, so we're using a little slap delay here.
Turn me up, just enough to the store. Turn me on, drop the needle down. Fill me up. And turn me up. Turn your ears into eyes. Tune me up so you can see where I hide. Cue me up.
All right, so we did a handful of takes, the lead vocal, comped it together, helping myself a little bit with some Melodyne. After that, just a little EQ, give myself a little grit in that top mid region, a little roll off on the bottom. We kept our slap on. I also went along and cut some harmony as well.
Turn me up, turn your ears into eyes. Tune me up so you can see where I hide. Cue me up.
We also got a little Arctic Monkeys kind of vibe in there. We have a high falsetto going through this pure plate right here as well.
Turn me up, turn your ears